Good evening, everybody. I am so glad you're here. Uh, got a new intro. I hope you like that. We have a lot to get to this evening, and I am going to introduce myself. I am Dorothy Burton, your host for Real Talk, Real Truth, and that is what we are about. We're not about the politics, although we talk about the politics. My mission and my goal here is to educate people, to inspire people, and to inform people. I don't get into anybody's politics. I don't climb into anybody's bedrooms. I don't do any of that because I think there's enough of that. I also think that there's enough of foolishness and stuff that just don't matter, especially today when we are dealing with issues and administration unlike we have not seen before. Um, so I'm not about foolishness. We're about truth, and we're about the issues and helping you to make sense of what we're seeing point um, from a different viewpoint. Uh, yeah. What I'm about to say is hard for me to say because I know it's not going to be taken very well, but that's okay. Okay. What we've seen this past week with Donald Trump and the refugees, they really are not refugees, from South Africa, is a story all in itself. And it has nothing to do with them being oppressed or them or their lives being threatened or anything like that. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with that. And as I was researching this topic, uh, I ran across a clip from Don Lemon show. I don't know when he did it. I guess a couple of days ago, and that's why I'm kind of talking, trying to get time for people to jump in. But he did an interview with a guy by the name of Simon Allison. Now, Simon is the co-founder of a magazine in South Africa. The name of the magazine is Continent Magazine, and I am going to play a clip. So I want you to sit back. It's about 7 minutes long. I could give you these stats and I could give you this information, but hearing it from Simon, I think will have a greater impact because what we're seeing with Donald Trump importing these white South African farmers, it has absolutely nothing to do with their lives being in danger. It has nothing to do with their farms being confiscated. As I said at the beginning, this is going to be a really tough conversation to have, but it's the conversation that we need to have. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with race. And for people who say I'm a race baiter, you really don't know me because I'm not. If you read my Substack today, I did an article um, today talking about the Democrats and how out of touch the Democrats are and how they handed America Donald Trump on a silver platter by choosing our candidate instead of allowing us to go through a primary. And I talk about them too. I don't talk about them. I just say what needs to be said and stuff people don't say, but it's the truth. The Democrats are so far out of touch. I don't know how they're going to get back to reality. God bless them. That's not my deal. So I am going to share my screen. I am going to share with you a clip. As I said, it's about 7 minutes. If we run into advertisements, I'm going to skip them. But Simon Allison tells a different story than what Donald Trump is telling us about these South African quote unquote refugees. They are not refugees. And there is a bigger issue here that I am going to get into. This South African refugee thing. God bless the Episcopalian Church. I thank God for them because they said, no, we're not going to play that game. And it is, make no mistake about it, it is a game of race. And Donald Trump and this administration are racing against the clock. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that after we watch this segment from the Don Lemon Show with Simon Allison from South Africa. And Simon breaks this down. And then I'm going to come back and add what I know to be true from my research, and why we are going through, why Donald Trump is putting this country he is putting it through when it comes to certain things, race being one of them. I have said it before. I don't throw around racist, that term, lightly. I don't. I've been a conservative Republican all of my life. Voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Those who know my story know my story. And I walked away from the Republican Party in 2018 when I learned, when I saw the way the waves were turning. Who would have ever thought? And even this guy, I don't know if we're going to get to that part of it, but he talks about how South Africans are befuddled at America, because he said that what they are looking at is what they have already been through. And he said that while we are not there yet, as far as an apartheid president, all of the telltale signs are there in the early stages. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. So I'm going to share my screen, and I want you to hear what Simon Allison had to say to Don Lemon. And again, Simon Allison is co-founder of Continent Magazine in South Africa. Let me see if I remember how to do this.
What is it? So to get to the bottom of this, I wanted to speak to an expert, someone who can actually report on what's going on in South Africa, and that is Simon Allison, the co-founder of the Continent Magazine based in Johannesburg. Thank you for joining us.
Hi there, Don.
So when you hear that, and Donald Trump, our president here in the United States, also claiming that, is there a white genocide going on in South Africa? And if not, where is this notion coming from?
Well, Don, if there is a slow genocide of white people going on in South Africa, as Elon Musk claims, it is very, very, very slow. I wrote some statistics down. One, that's the number of farmers that were killed in the last quarter of last year in South Africa. And of course, all this has to do with the alleged persecution and violence against white Afrikaner farmers that is apparently such a scourge in our society that the United States is having to sort of bend all its rules, hire private planes to bring these persecuted people to safety in the United States. And from the perspective of those of us sitting in South Africa, myself as a white South African, it's hard to see this white genocide anywhere. In fact, you could argue that the opposite is true, that even 30 years after the end of apartheid, which was a white supremacist state, it is still very privileged to be a white person in this country.
Why does it seem like South Africa occupies a very special place in the imagination of white supremacists? Why are they so obsessed with South Africa?
Well, I think it's two reasons. The first is that South Africa is the most recent example of a successful, sophisticated white supremacist state. Apartheid only ended in 1994. That was not very long ago, 31 years. That is in my lifetime. It's in most of our lifetimes. We remember what that looks like. And don't get me, we forget so easily that it was a sophisticated state, that it was incredibly technologically adept. It developed nuclear weapons. It had advanced military systems. It was...
No. Oh, come back.
The sort of aspirational model of what a white supremacist state looks like if you are wanting to create similar structures in your own country. That's reason one. Reason two is that so much of the sort of white supremacist philosophy, ideology is based on this idea that, well, white people are victims, that they are being persecuted, that white people are suffering. It's pretty hard to find any evidence of that. One of the few places where white people are getting killed in any kind of numbers is South Africa. But that doesn't mean that they're being killed because they are white people. South Africa has a terrible problem with violent crime that affects people of all races, all genders, and in fact, it disproportionately affects not white people, but Black women. But they are not being offered asylum and expedited refugee status in the United States.
Why do you think then, Simon, why would Elon Musk, where would he get that information from? And then, because, and again, he's not alone here, but how would they come up with that notion that there is a white genocide or a slow white genocide or a genocide of white farmers in South Africa?
A few years ago, I spent a bit of time with a online group called Busting the Myth of White Genocide. And they had sort of taken it on themselves to respond online to places where this idea of the white genocide was being propagated. And I asked them this question. I was like, well, where is this concept of a white genocide coming from? It's not supported by statistics. It's not supported by civil society in this country. There really is no evidence for it whatsoever. And their comments were interesting. They said from what they had seen is there's a high degree of overlap between the accounts propagating white genocide narratives and American conservative, pro-Trump, Christian evangelical, white supremacist, that kind of bundle of beliefs. And their sort of thinking was that the narrative is being seeded in the South African information ecosystem by these groups, which of course have a fairly high degree of alignment with your current president, and indeed are the kinds of groups that are certainly enjoying plenty of amplification currently on Elon Musk's social media platform.
Interesting. So perhaps that is why Donald Trump can get in front of a podium and say this on microphones and cameras are rolling about South African farmers and that they are somehow being killed and persecuted. He was asked that question just a couple of days ago in the White House. Watch this.
Because they're being killed.
Come on.
And we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess, a G20 meeting there or something. But we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. But it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they talk about it. That would be the only story they talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible.
Now, listen, there are people being killed and persecuted all over the world, but somehow this one is important to him. Look, Donald Trump often will say things, and there's a kernel of truth in it, right? We call it truthiness, perhaps. But is there a kernel of truth here, or is this one completely fabricated?
The general perception or reaction to this in South Africa has been one of bafflement, because there isn't even a kernel of truth. All economic statistics suggest that actually, white people are thriving in this country. Something like, so I gathered some statistics before the show. White people, on average, are 20 times richer than black people in South Africa. Unemployment rates amongst white people, 9.2%, pretty high. Unemployment rates amongst black people in South Africa, 46.1%. That's according to Stats South Africa. Stellenbosch University did a study recently which showed that 75% of farmland is still in the hands of white farmers. And the white population of this country is only around 7 or 8%. So you can see that these enormous wealth inequalities endure. And sure, you might say, well, that would be a motivation for some kind of violent reaction. But we have not seen that as a society. In fact, the opposite has been true. Nelson Mandela, we all know the name, but we forget what.
Okay, so if you saw and heard what he said, Donald Trump is lying to us. There is no genocide of white farmers in South Africa. Now, I could have given you the stats and I could have told you from memory and from my notes, but I wanted you to hear it from a man who is a co-founder of a prominent magazine in South Africa. He said, we're not seeing that. As a matter of fact, he said there is not a kernel of truth in what Donald Trump is saying. So then you have to ask yourself, if that is not the case, then what is the case? And you heard Donald Trump say, I don't care if they're black, I don't care if they're white, I don't care how much they weigh, I don't care, all of these things. But if that is the truth, then the people that he would have been flying in on private charter jet would be who? Black women. You heard what Simon said. You heard what he said. It's not white farmers that are most at risk. It's black women. But you won't hear that from this administration. And if I had let that clip go on, what Simon would say is that America better be careful. Because what they are seeing in America is what they saw in South Africa when apartheid was developing. No exaggeration. No exaggeration. So you have to look at it and say, okay, if that is not the case, if white farmers are not at risk, and you heard the numbers, 75% of farmland in South Africa is still in the hands of whites. Yet they only make up 7 to 8% of the population. You heard the numbers when it comes to unemployment. Unemployment among whites is 9.2%. 9.2. Among blacks in South Africa, it is 46.1% unemployment. 46.1% unemployment among blacks. 9.2% unemployment for whites. They make up 7 or 8% total of the population. And not only that, but whites in South Africa are 20 times richer. 20 more times richer than black South Africans. So Donald Trump is lying. And I'm going to tell it to his face. And I'll say this in front of God and everybody. Donald Trump is lying to us. It is a lie. Even Simon, the magazine man, said, we in South Africa are befuddled because we have no idea what America is talking about. There is no truth. You heard what the man said. There is no truth to what Donald Trump is saying. Not even a kernel of truth. So what is behind this? See, when black people talk about race, y'all call us race beta. I'm as far from a race beta as you can get. I hate racial politics. I hated it, from the pulpit, black and white. But there is no getting around what this is. Now, did you hear the man say, and I wish I had pointed it out before he said it. It is so disappointing. Did you hear him say that they did some research and looked at these online groups, and what they found, these South African racist white groups had ties to right-wing racist white groups in the United States and pro-Trump groups in the United States. And then, I don't know if you caught it or not. I did. I was drinking my water and I almost choked on my water when I heard him say it the first time. He said white Christian evangelical groups are a part of this. Go back and listen to it. White Christian evangelical groups are part of this network of racist, right-wing groups, and he also said pro-Trump groups on social media, and they have this network. So this is just not coming from out of the air. You heard what the man said. None of what Donald Trump said is true. This is about white. This is about white. And why is that? And why is that? Well, we could talk about abortion. If abortion was really about abortion, if they really cared about the children, would they be cutting off aid to starving children? Would they be cutting Medicaid? Would they be sending a kid that needs cancer treatment, putting him on a plane and shipping him off to some camp somewhere? It's not about preservation of life. It's about preservation of white life. See, I'm just going to be real honest. I'm always real honest, but I looked at every other way to try to present this to y'all. There is no other way to present it to y'all. And when I ran across, see, I was in South Africa last fall. We were there for like 2 weeks. And I saw up close and personal the damages of apartheid, but I also saw a people, black and white, trying to make it work, trying to get along, working together, worshiping, all of that. And here comes America. Here comes the white right wing, and the man said, I ain't making it up, white evangelical Christian groups are in on this too. So what is it? The overall thing is this. Let me show you this. Let me pull this up, and then it's going to make better sense. Let me show you this. It's about the white population in America, the decreasing white population in America. And these are the latest statistics that I could find. And if you look at the fertility rates, white women have the lowest birth per 1,000 women than the total population of Hispanic women and black women. White women, 1,568 births per 1,000 women. Hispanic women, almost 2,000. And black women, 1,600. Now, if you look deeper into these statistics, white births represents only 50.5% of all live births in the U.S. between 2021 and 2023. That's the latest figures I could find from March of Dimes. And get this, while white women are still a significant portion, they give a significant portion of births, their total white births have been declining. The total fertility rate is highest for who? Guess who? Hispanic women. Guess who? Look who Donald Trump is trying to get out of the United States. He's trying to get out of here Hispanic people. He's trying to get out of here. If you are Hispanic origin, Venezuelan, Cuban, Mexican, you're going to be out of here. Why? Because he's trying to protect the white race. Because Hispanics are having more babies than anybody. And Latina teens have the highest birth rate, 42 births per 1,000 teens. And although white women are still having have a significant portion of births, their total births, two things, their total births are declining, their total white baby births are declining, and they're getting older. Hello, somebody. The white birth rate is declining. White women are getting older, and white women are not getting married. Hello? If you have been listening to or paying any attention to Elon Musk and the bro boys, the bro techs, the tech boys, the tech bros, they keep talking about, breed better babies. But what they're talking about is breed better white babies, because it's the white women that are not having the babies. It is the Hispanic women and the black women, but more so Hispanic women and Hispanic teens. And if you look at who Donald Trump is targeting, he's targeting that very group. If you cannot increase your birth rate, then you are going to have to decrease the population of those who have the higher birth rate that are non-white. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. That's what he's doing. This deportations and stopping people. Look at who they're stopping on the street. Look at who they are arresting on college campuses. Non-whites. And another thing. What do I think? Another thing. While they are talking about DEI and getting rid of DEI and erasing blacks from history books and erasing any print that black people have, you know why? Have y'all heard of the Great Replacement theory? The Great Replacement theory. I think it started in Europe, where white people believe, I think it started in Europe because they were saying that Muslims were going to replace white Europeans. Now that has spread in the United States among right-wing white groups, the Great Replacement theory. I want you to look it up. You remember Charlottesville? And they were walking through Charlottesville with those torches. Jews will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. That's what they talking about. That's what they're talking about. Because white people are afraid to death of being replaced. Why? Because looking at the numbers. Now, these are smart people. Looking at the numbers. If the birth rates hold as they are, and the white population continues to age as it is, between 2040 and 2050, white people in America are going to be the minority. If something doesn't happen to reverse the numbers, white people in America are going to be the minority. Between 2040 and 2050. Well, that's 15 to 20 years. And that scares a lot of people to death. It scares them so much that they are importing white people to repopulate the whites in America. And then you have to look at another thing. You go, why? You know, it sounded kind of funny at first. You know, why is Trump going after Greenland? Why is he saying Canada would make a great state? Why is he saying Trudeau would be a good governor? Why those two? Why does he want Greenland? Why does he want Canada? Well, let's look at it. The population of Greenland, 57,792, 89.7% white European, 7.8% Danish, the remainder Nordic and non-Nordic, which means they're white. Greenland is 100% right at 100%. Greenland is as white as you can get. Everybody in Greenland white. Other white, European, Danish, Nordic, same thing. To Donald Trump and those people, white is white. Okay. And then why Canada? Now look at Canada. Canada has 25.4 million people, and nearly 70%, 69.8% of Canada is white. So if he could acquire Greenland, and if he could acquire Canada, Canada being 70% white, Greenland being 100% white, that would take care of the white problem in America in a minute. That's why he wants Canada. That's why he wants Greenland. Because the white population in America is declining. It's getting older, and white women are not having babies. And that's why you see some of these policies that the Republicans are coming up with, policies about marriage, and they hate online dating, and Elon Musk. Let me get it right. Elon Musk said, let me find it. Elon Musk said that he has 14 kids, right? So he has 14 kids. He's just not having these kids just to have these kids. He's having these kids to populate the white population in America. That's why he's having all these kids. It sounds crazy, I know, but it's true. Okay. Elon Musk says that population collapse due to low birth rates is a much bigger risk to civilization than global warming. You hear him? The man that got 14 kids, 14 white kids. He tweeted, population collapse due to low birth rates. He means white low birth rates. Okay, he ain't talking about y'all. He ain't talking about me. He ain't talking about us. Is much bigger risk to civilization than global warming. And the right hates things such as, and that's why that's why they're going after making it more difficult to get a divorce. Because no-fault divorces favors the woman. And no-fault divorces favors the woman. It also disfavors family. So they're going to go after that. Let me give you a list of things they hate and why they hate them. There's one reason why they hate them. Because it decreases the white birth rate. That's why. Online dating, career-minded women, no-fault divorce. And you think that when it comes to trans and gays, yeah, for the religious people, it's a religious thing, but not totally. Why? Trans people can't reproduce. Same-sex couples can't reproduce white babies. Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about the population as a whole. This administration, this mindset, these laws, you heard the man in South Africa. You saw what I just showed you with Greenland and Canada. And you look at who they are deporting. They're not deporting anybody that's white. They're not deporting anybody to Switzerland. They're not deporting anybody to Ireland. They're not deporting, and they got a bunch of Irish where? Somewhere upstate, I was reading the other day. They ain't deporting no Irish people. Why? Because Irish are white. They're deporting the greatest danger to the white race in America, and that is Hispanics. I just showed you the chart. That is the greatest threat, Hispanics. And for those Hispanics who voted for Donald Trump this time around, now I voted for him in 2016 until I learned better. People vote for who they need to vote for, who they feel they need to vote for. But Donald Trump is no friend to Hispanics because he sees Hispanics as part of the great replacement theory to replace white people. And they are at the rate they're having babies. And at the rate white women are not having babies, and at the rate white women are aging. Show you this. When we talk about there are two things that absolutely drives them crazy: the trans issue, the gay issue, and the multiracial issue, i.e., mixed marriages. And I'm going to get to that, and that's going to be my last point. This right here drives them absolutely nuts. These are two women. The woman that looks like the guy is trans, going through the transition. But that's a woman, although she looks like a man. That's two women. And that couple with gay couples, couple with multiracial, biracial couples. There are two laws. Now you see that Donald Trump is going after public education. They are erasing Black history. And to say it has nothing to do with race would be like saying Christmas has nothing to do with December. They are connected. And for the first time, we have a white supremacist mindset sitting in the Oval Office. And I don't say that lightly. In every action this man takes, when it comes to manipulate him and his administration, when it comes to manipulating the population, the manipulation will always be against Blacks and Browns. And you see that being played out. if they have to import whites from South Africa and pretend that there is genocide going on over there to justify it, along with these white evangelicals. You heard what the man said. I ain't making it up. I wish I was. You heard what he said? It's some white Christian evangelical groups, along with pro-Trump groups, along with white right-wing groups in South Africa and the United States, this network of these groups are complicit in this. Elon Musk is complicit in this. The tech bros are complicit in this. And they are, they are breeding better babies. They are breeding better babies. They're breeding white babies. And then the last thing that I want to talk about and inform you about is this. You see how they are revisiting history. Black history, the Smithsonian, how they just fired the Library of Congress librarian, who's a Black woman, well regarded, along with attempting to erase history, to build up this white America. Now, you have to understand, when Donald Trump talks about the golden age was a time of segregation, redlining, racist, segregated schools. That's why the Department of Education was a big target for him. That's why even where I am in Texas, why Greg Abbott, took all that money, millions of dollars from that guy in Philip, Pennsylvania. Why Greg Abbott is bought off. And the legislature is bought off. And why they just passed this legislation that if they had put it, I'm in Texas. If they had put that up for a vote, those school vouchers to give public monies to these religious schools, it would have gone down in flames. And Greg Abbott knows it. So does Dan Patrick. So does Donald Trump. People do not want their public money for public education going to these religious schools. But it's all tied together of trying to preserve the inevitable, trying to preserve the domination of whites in America when the population of whites is on the decline, because white women are not having babies at that rate. Right now, it is what the U.S. birth, the percentage of U.S. births that are white, 50.5%. 50.5%. The rest of them are Black and brown, and mostly brown. I just showed you the numbers. And that's why these folks that voted, these Hispanics that voted for Donald Trump, y'all been had. Y'all have been had because he cares absolutely nothing for you. As a matter of fact, he detests you because you are having babies and white women aren't having babies. So he has to get y'all up out of here. And that's what he's doing. And that's why he's doing it. And that's why he's going after Greenland. And that's why he's going after Canada. And that's why he's flying on a charter plane with our money, taxpayers' money, flying these white South Africans in. And if you look at the ones that he ain't flying no old people. Did you see any old decrepit people among them people? Nah. You saw little children. You saw younger people. He ain't flying in no old decrepit white people. Why? They can't have no babies. This is diabolical and it's evil. And it's true. I wish it wasn't. I wish I had something else to bring you tonight, but I don't. And the last point that I'm going to make, before I got off on the education thing, the erasing the history, the doing away with public education. The next thing that they want to go after is I know I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. The Ober. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Gay marriage. The gay marriage. Gay marriage. Oberfeld. What was the name? Oberfeld. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Gay marriage. Passed in 2015 under Obama. Why? I just told you. They don't care. Now, see, the religious people, the religious people say, oh, homosexuality is against God's law and all this kind of stuff. I ain't gonna get into none of that. The religious people say that. And Donald Trump is thrown in with them. But see, it's just like back in the Bible days, y'all. You had the Sadducees and you had the Pharisees. The Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. The Sadducees didn't believe in a lot of things. And the Pharisees didn't believe in a lot of things. When it came to the Mosaic law, they disagreed sharply, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. But they made up the Jewish council. It's kind of like Democrats and Republicans today. The only thing politically that they agreed on was the crucifixion of Jesus, but they agreed on it for different reasons. And that's where we are with these white evangelicals and Donald Trump and the Republicans. The white evangelicals are against homosexuality, same-sex marriage, and all that because they say it's against God's law. The white Republicans and the white racists, they don't give a shit. They don't care. Jesus, they don't care about that. Their thing is 2 men and 2 women can't procreate. So just like the Sadducees and the Pharisees, they couldn't agree on the Mosaic law, but they did agree on one thing, and that was to crucify Jesus. And that's what these white Republicans and these white evangelicals are. They have an unholy union because they have come together to crucify homosexuals and gay marriage and all that, but for different reasons. And the next 2 things that they're going to go after, besides the gay marriage thing, 2015, and where this unholy union has come together, the Republicans and evangelicals, although for different reasons, just like the Sadducees and Pharisees, both of they disagreed on almost everything, but when it came to crucifying Jesus, they were good with that. And it's just like this with these Republicans and these white evangelical Christians. Gay marriage, most of them white Republicans, they don't care about that. It ain't no religious thing with them, although they'll talk that stuff. They don't care about that being a religious thing. They are against gay marriage because just what I just told you, 2 men and 2 women can't procreate. 2 men and 2 women can't make no white babies, okay? And the evangelicals, it's against God's law. It's against God's law. So they didn't come together. So they come together to do what? They're going to try to repeal the gay marriage law for different reasons, just like the Sadducees and the Pharisees. It's not a matter of that. The end game is the goal, okay? It may be for different reasons, but the end game is the goal. The end game for the white Republicans and the Elon Musk and all those people are to get rid of gay marriage because, the procreation thing, they can't have white babies. For the white evangelicals, it's to get rid of them because, it's against God's law. Different reasons, same result. Just like the Sadducees and the Pharisees, different reasons, same result. Jesus ended up on that cross, didn't he? Okay? And then the second thing, and you say it can't happen? Nobody would have told me that Donald Trump would have sat up there and issued an executive order negating the civil rights Act of 1964. Nobody could have told me done. Nobody would have ever thought he'd done that. But he did. And guess what? He still ain't returned those. He still ain't returned that man from El Salvador. He don't care what the Supreme Court said. This is a man of lawlessness. What you expect from a felon? He don't care about no law. He don't care about no constitution. So guess what's next? All you people. I love everybody. I really do. I do. But you couples. Now, he cannot do anything to negate your marriage. But if Donald Trump could sign an executive order today to get rid of Loving versus the state of Virginia, he would do it. Now, he got rid of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, Loving and the state of Virginia came later, 1967. White man married to a black woman. That was illegal. They came and snatched him up out that house. They filed a lawsuit. Look it up. Look it up. Loving versus Virginia, or Loving versus the state of Virginia. The Loving case, which the Supreme Court ruled that a black man and a white woman, or a white man and a black woman, could get married. If Donald Trump could sign an executive order negating Loving, he would do it. If he could sign an executive order negating the same-sex marriage law 2015, he would do it. Because they are scared to death of losing America, or what America had been. So when you hear him talk about the golden age, that was when white people ruled. White people are not going to be the majority. Barely the majority now. So what do? You either import white people to re-white America, or you deport brown people to make sure that America stays as white as it can be. And Donald Trump is doing both. Look at the numbers. Look at who he's deporting. He ain't deporting nobody white from a predominantly white country. And there are a bunch of Irish here illegally. Illegally. But they're white. For the first time in my lifetime, we have a white supremacist in the White House. That's what that guy said from South Africa. He said, oh, we recognize this. We've seen this before. And if we're smart, we better recognize it too. We are not dealing, y'all. And you heard what the man said from South Africa. We have white Christian evangelical groups complicit in this. And I talked about this last week, and I'm just going to mention it briefly here. This Religious Liberty Commission, look at those people. Look at them. You see one grinning Negro, and that's Ben Carson. That's the grinning Negro that he always gets. He was his HUD director. Good man, good doctor, but he's also a good boy for Donald Trump. As they get ready to rival SBC with this MAGA church, network of MAGA churches that they are planning. And they're going to be MAGA white evangelical churches. And they are going to be funded just like they funded the legislature here to pass this voucher. Ain't no shortage of money. And they're going to be funded by these billionaires, these tech bros, and these billionaires. And that's where the money is going to come from. And they are going to fund churches who play along. MAGA churches, MAGA pastors, preaching the MAGA message. SBC better get ready for it. Because this MAGA network of churches, this new church Donald Trump and them are talking about, it's going to rival SBC network of white evangelical churches. All of this, y'all, if you don't get nothing else from what I said and from what Simon said, it's a ruse. It's a lie. There is no white genocide in South Africa. It's all about what I just told y'all, preserving the white race any way they can. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was educational, inspirational. I don't do the race. I don't do none of that. I just present the facts as I find them. Because y'all, we need to know the truth. Because we got some diabolical people in high places and they are not playing. So we need to know the truth. And like they used to say in the old folks, used to say, and act accordingly. Because if you listen to this podcast, you're not going to have no excuse for not knowing. And I don't give two you-know-whats about MAGA people. I don't care about attacks. I don't care about none of that. I'm too far gone for that. I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. So y'all can say what you want to say, write what you want to write, do what you want to do. I'm going to be right here as the Lord wills on Thursday night telling y'all what he would want me to tell you, and that is the truth. Because he said his people perish for lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge in the Bible translates to ignorance. And if you dig further in the Bible, when it talks about lack of knowledge and that is equating to ignorance, ignorance equates to darkness. So God is saying, my people perish for lack of knowledge. My people perish because they are in darkness. Ain't no darkness here. We shine the light on truth. Okay? Thank y'all for joining me. And again, I am Dorothy Burton. All this will be downloaded. You can get it wherever you find your podcast, the audio of it. And as I say every week, y'all stand firm, stay true, and lead with a heart of courage. And just know that no weapon, if you're in Jesus, no weapon formed against you will prosper. See ya.